Hi, I'm Dale Mathias, a science fiction author. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video. I have to warn you off the top here that it's going to be about a 5 to 6 minute video. I can't cut it down any more than that and still say what I have to say. If I did, it would be terribly garbled because I'd have to speak too fast. I decided to make the video following a lot of input from excited readers about this book, Exile to the Stars. Exile is the first volume in a 10-volume series entitled The Alroy Chronicles. I published Exile late in the spring of this year, 2008, and the comments started coming in very quickly. Let me tell you something about the book and how it came to be. I sat down to write it when I was in my early 50s, and I can tell you that prior to that I had no idea I was going to write a book. What I understand now is that the 25 years that went before was no more than a prologue. I think was the necessary experiential base that I needed in order to sit down and write. Fresh out of medical school, I served 7 years in the Navy. 2 years of that was in submarines as a naval physician. After that, I practiced medicine for 9 years as a psychiatrist, and then operated a small business following that for 13 years. After I closed the small business, I was totally disgusted, exhausted, both emotionally and physically. Eventually I holed up in a ratty old mobile home, one with a lot of character, and sat down to write. I did not sit down to write Exile to the Stars. I simply sat down to write in opposition to what I had experienced for the prior 25 years. I knew that what I had experienced was life as we know it today, reality, but not life as it could be, or I think life as it was intended to be. 4 months later, the book was pretty much done, and I came up for air. In a progressive fashion, I disappeared from this world, from this reality, during the course of that writing. Eventually, I came to reside on a Ketty, where I saw the characters come to life and take up their lives, and eventually to not dictate, but to sort of guide me in what to put down in writing as a biographer of their lives. That was a paranormal experience. It was such an experience in that realm that I went back 3 more times. I had to see how they were doing to sort of remake their acquaintance and write books 2, 3, and 4. At this point, 5 books have been written. The 6th is halfway there, and the 7th is in my head. So the book was written on a Ketty. It's a story about 2 young professionals, Jeff Frederick and Carl Jorgensen. Jeff's an anthropologist, and Carl is a biologist and a chemist at the university. They're both at the University of Washington in Seattle. It's the year 2025, and they're very unhappy with life and have making no real gains that they can see. Through a number of circumstances, Jeff is first transported, as it were, to the planet of Aketi and the continent of Arbalia. It requires a couple weeks before he realizes this has happened. Then one dreadful night, one awful night, his life is shattered when he finally realizes, when he sees something that tells him without doubt that he can no longer go home, that he's lost forever, and he'll never see his loved ones again. It's all done with him. He's lost in a trackless wilderness that is so huge we can't imagine its size in this day and age. He doesn't know which way to turn. He's half dead from starvation, from getting out of the mountains. And he could have given up and died, but he doesn't. He's a courageous man, and he heads south. It's not long before he encounters a number of alien beings on the planet of Aketi. I say beings because it's no one category. He encounters what we would term animals, peoples who are clearly alien, at least in appearance, and others who clearly seem to be human. Unfortunately, these categories get quickly exchanged. The animals certainly are not animals as we know them. The humans likely aren't. But on the other hand, the aliens clearly are aliens. Through all these encounters, Jeff is pushed to his limit. The learning curve is ferocious, and he's always behind it, and sometimes he's so far behind it that it almost costs him his life. But at the same time, he's learning that with the display of courage and honor and sweat equity, he can achieve just about anything, because you see, there's no one standing in the way in Acadie. It's a savage, brutal, and at times it's primitive for sure, but it's also a world that has no one standing in the way. There's no one, for instance, who says, well, you can't go any farther unless you pay me an exorbitant fee. Or they don't say, well, yeah, you're qualified, but what school did you go to? Or who's your family? You say you come from which state? You know, questions like that, you know what I mean. There's none of that. Anybody can do exactly what they have the courage and endeavor to do. And Jeff really flourishes in this environment. So this is life as it can be. Life based totally upon what you are capable of doing and have the courage to undertake. I tell you what, why don't you come to our website and have a look at it? I'd love to have you come. Download the first chapter of Exile. Some of the graphic images are great. Look at the reviews. They certainly influenced me. www.ardentpublishing.com. Also, I'm starting a blog. That'll be up at about the same time as this video. www.wordparlance.blogspot.com. Drop on by. I'm going to go into some of these details about reality, about courage and honor, and how it plays a role to a much greater extent than I can possibly in a video. Finally, let me recall a quote from Helen Keller. It's one of her most famous quotes. She said, "Life, if it is not an adventure, is nothing." I have found that to be explicitly true throughout my life. It is absolutely correct. Come to Acadie and experience the quality of adventure there. I don't think you will want to leave once you've arrived. Also, stay tuned for more videos. There's more in line coming up. And listen, good luck in whatever you venture, and I hope you do.